Now we will discuss a very important topic. Securities Exchange Board of India, SEBI, latest circular dated February 14th, 2025. It seems to be complicated, but I'll make it very easy, very simple. It's only a format. And this is the industry standards on minimum information to be provided for review of the audit committee and shareholders for approval of related party transaction. Regulation 23, 2, 3, and 4 of SEBI LODR requires related party transactions to be approved by the audit committee and by the shareholders if material. And Part A and Part B of Section 3 of SEBI Master Circular dated November 11, 2024 specify the information to be placed before the audit committee and shareholders respectively for consideration of RPT. You may get doubt why again these new industry standards, already it is there. So these standards are providing a uniform, it is giving a facility for uniform approach and assisting listed companies by providing a standardized format and format in the form of disclosures. This, in order to facilitate uniform approach and assist listed entities in complying with the mentioned requirements, the Industry Standard Forum ISF, comprising of representatives of 3 industry associations, ASSOCHAM, CII, and FICCI, under aegis of Stock Exchange, has formulated these standards. These are effective from 1st April 2025. Accordingly, the amendment carried out in Master Circular. This is what the introduction just I told you in the same introduction. And objective, the purpose. The objective is these standards aims to critically analyze the adequacy and clarity of the information provided, ensuring that it meets the legal and regulatory requirements. And it is providing the standardized format. I will explain you the format. Main aspects covered here is applicability of these standards, standards for definition of words and expression used in these standards, standards for minimum information to be provided to the audit committee for review and approval, including ratification of RPTs. And another one is format for minimum information to be provided for review of the audit committee for approval, including ratification. Earlier one is a standard and another one is a format. And standards for minimum information to be provided to the shareholders, to the audit committee, and here is the shareholders for consideration of RPTs. This is what it is covered in these standards. Applicability. Now we will discuss on the applicability standards. Material RPTs as defined under Regulation 23, 1 and 1A of LODR regulations, and transactions with related party, where the transaction to be entered into individually or taken together. Individually or taken together with previous transactions during the financial year exceed lower the following: 2% of turnover, 2% of net worth, 5% of average consolidated profit, average of the absolute value of the profit or loss after tax as per the last 3 audited consolidated financial year. These standards shall be applicable in respect of the RPTs, related party transactions entered into by listed entity on or after 1st April 2025. So applicability from 1st April 2025. Here the crux is you try to understand the matrix. Here matrix is given. I will make it very simple. Type of transactions you have to see. 3 types of transactions. And disclosures also 3 types of disclosures. First you should understand this. Type of transactions, first is a material RPT. Another one is other RPT where promoters are involved or promoter group is involved. Another type of transaction is residual RPT. Material RPT, residual RPT, other RPT. These 3 are the type of transactions. Just have an idea, then I will go in depth. Then disclosures. comprehensive disclosure, limited disclosure, minimum disclosure. 3 type of disclosure. That's all. Comprehensive disclosure. What is comprehensive disclosure? I will explain. Then limited disclosure and minimum disclosure. First, have an idea. 3 type of transactions, 3 type of disclosures. Then there are balance sheet items, P&L items. I will explain what is balance sheet item and what is P&L item. And approvals required is audit committee approval. Then if required, then we'll go to shareholder approval. Where shareholder approval required if it is a material RPT. Otherwise, audit committee. So this is, we are discussing on the disclosures. Now, I'll take you to the type of transaction. If it is a material RPT, then threshold limit, as we discussed, no, just material RPT as defined in an regulation 23 of the LODR. Same definition follows. If it is a material, then it is both balance sheet and P&L item. Approval required is audit committee approval required and shareholder approval required. If it is a material RPT, then disclosures are comprehensive disclosures are required. In next slide, I will explain what is comprehensive disclosure. First, you have an overall idea. If it is a material transaction, then both balance sheet and P&L item, then approval required is the audit committee and then shareholder, and disclosures required is comprehensive disclosure. Another transaction, if it is other RPT, where promoter or promoter group, entity in which promoter or promoter group has a concern or interest, so that party is involved. So related by transactions where promoter is involved or promoter group or person or entity in which promoter or promoter group has a concern or interest is involved in this transaction, then here we have to see the threshold limit. How we will see exceed the threshold limit provided above in para 2. Just I explain. This threshold limits, we have to see this 2% of turnover as per the last audited consolidated financial statement of the listed entity, 2% of net worth as per the last audited consolidated financial statement of the listed entity, except in case of arithmetic value of the net worth is negative. Another one is 5% of average of absolute value of profit or loss after tax as per the last 3 audited consolidated financial statement of the listed entity. Here we have to see exceed lower of the following. Lower of the following: 2% turnover, 2% net worth, 5% average absolute P&L. So lower of the following, we have to see these, and then if it is exceed the threshold provided, then this is what comprehensive disclosure. If it is less than the threshold limit, then it is limited disclosure. See the difference, material RPT and here. Material RPT, we are not seeing this 2%, 5%. We are going by definition. There it is both balance sheet and P&L item RPT. Approval also both the audit committee and shareholder approval in material RPT. Disclosure also comprehensive disclosure. Whereas it is not material, but it is where promoter is involved. In such case, when promoter is involved, you have to see the limits. If the limits are exceeding, then you have to check balance sheet item and P&L item. Even balance sheet and the P&L item, both are audit committee approval is required and comprehensive disclosures are required. Comprehensive disclosures are required, promoter is involved. And if it is a less than threshold limit, then if less than threshold limit and balance item, if it is a balance sheet item, then audit committee and comprehensive disclosure. Less than threshold limit, it is not balance sheet item, it is a P&L item, then audit committee limited disclosures are required. I will first you have an idea, then I will explain what is balance sheet item, what is P&L item, and what is limited disclosure, what is comprehensive disclosure. I will explain next slide. I will explain. Then if it is a residual RPT, so it is not material and it is only a related party transactions, promoter not involved. It is a residual RPT. Transaction with a related party to be entered into individually or taken together with the previous transactions during the financial year exceeding 1 crore. Here we have to see whether it is exceed 1 crore or less than 1 crore. If it is exceed 1 crore, limited disclosure. If it is a less than 1 crore, minimum disclosure. Transaction with related party exceeds 1 crore, limited disclosure. Less than 1 crore, minimum disclosure. Here, this is called residual RPT. Here, promoter is not involved. Here, we are not talking about material RPT. So, if it is a material RPT, then it will go to respective transaction. If it is involving the promoter, it will go to respective transaction, other RPT. Here, we are talking about residual RPT. Residual RPT, we will see if it is transaction with the related party, and we will see the value. If the transaction exceeds 1 crore, limited disclosure. If it is transaction exclude less than 1 crore, minimum disclosure. Here, shareholder approval not required, audit committee approval required. Either of the, see whether it is a balance sheet item, P&L item, both. We are going for audit committee approval, and limited disclosures are required for residual RPT, related party transactions. I think up to this you are clear. Type of transactions divided into 3. Type of disclosures divided into 3. Approvals, audit committee shareholder. Where shareholder comes, RPT, material RPT, shareholders comes. And otherwise, audit committee is anyway mandatory. And we have to see balance sheet items and P&L items. What are balance sheet items? What are P&L items? Now we'll discuss. And even I'll explain about promoter group. See, promoter group shall be deemed to be concerned or interested in any person if they in any way, whether directly or indirectly, whether the person is a body corporate, holds more than 2% of holding or voting rights of the body corporate, or its promoter, managing director, manager, CEO of that body corporate. Or if it is not an individual, if it is not a body corporate, then where the person is the firm, we are talking about promoter group. Promoter or promoter group shall be deemed to be concerned or interested in any person if they in any way, whether directly or indirectly, where the person is a body corporate or where the person is a firm. I will differentiate. If the person is a body corporate, holds more than 2% of holding or voting rights of that body corporate, or is a promoter, managing director, manager, CEO, chief executive officer of that body corporate, they're all deemed to be concerned. And if it is a firm or other entity, then the promoters or the promoter group is a partner, owner, or member, as the case may be. These are all deemed to be concerned or interested. Promoter or promoter group shall be deemed to be concerned. This is what I told. Then we will discuss what is balance sheet item, what is P&L item. See, balance sheet item includes loan, intercorporate deposits or advances given by the listed entity or its subsidiary. Investment made by the listed entity or its subsidiary. Guarantee, excluding performance guarantee. Surety, indemnity, or comfort letter, whatever name called, made or given by the listed entity or its subsidiary. Borrowings by the listed entity or its subsidiary. And sale, lease, disposal of subsidiary or of unit, division, or undertaking of listed entity, or disposal of shares of subsidiary or associate. These are all balance sheet items. These are all balance sheet items. Then what is B3, B4, B5, B6, B7? These are line items in the format. In the format, there are 2 headings, A and B. In the B, B1, B2, B3, B4. In the A, A1, A2, A3. I'll come to that format. First, you try to understand, yes, what are the balance sheet items and what are the P&L items. P&L items, sale, purchase or supply of goods or services or any other similar business transaction. Payment of royalty. These are all P&L items. B2, B3, I'll explain. Those are line of items in the format. Format is here. It is given. Format is given. This is a format. This is a format. I'll come to that. First, you try to understand and what are the P&L items, what are the balance sheet items. And again, you try to understand comprehensive disclosure, limited disclosure, and minimum disclosure. Comprehensive disclosure, all disclosures as specified in para 4. Next, we are going to para 4. There, certain disclosures are given. Those are all covered under comprehensive disclosure. As applicable to the relevant RPT, comprehensive disclosure. Limited disclosures, all disclosures are specified in para 4 of the applicable to RPT, except the following: B2, B3, B4, A. This is what we are going to discuss here. Para 4. This is the para 4. Format of minimum information to be provided for review of the audit committee for approval, including ratification of RPTs. Here it is given, under B, other transactions are given. Even under A also, what are the information required? Like if it is a related party, name of the related party, country in which it is incorporated, nature of the business, like that. Just for having an idea, I am showing this. Then we will come to that. So here, comprehensive disclosure, all disclosures as specified in para 4, which we are going to para 4, and limited disclosure also clearly given, all disclosures specified in para 4 applicable to relevant RPT. Entities needs to be filled or not required. So the details related to the type of transaction, related to the type of disclosure needs to be filled. That's all. Everything is given in the format. By seeing the format, because this document runs to 35 pages, because others are not required to fill. Depends on the transaction and disclosure needs to be filled. Other things not applicable. You can fill not applicable. So similarly, it is given in para 4. It is given what is comprehensive disclosure, what is limited disclosure, what is a minimum disclosure. It is given these comprehensive disclosures, all disclosures as specified in para 4 of these standards as applicable to relevant RPT, respective transaction, and limited disclosures, all disclosures specified in para 4 applicable to relevant RPT except these line of items B2, B3, B4, B8. It is given. Once you go to the format, then you will come to know what is B2, B3, B4. And what are these rows also? These are the serial numbers 78, 79, 84, 86 are serial number. No need to worry. Same in case. Minimum disclosures, all disclosures specified in rows A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, B1. These are all in the format. So these are all comes under the minimum disclosures. Now when I explain standards for definitions, words and expressions used in these standards. See, the words and expressions used in these standards will be construed under LODR regulations in the manner they have been defined in LODR regulations, and which the words and expressions used but not defined in LODR regulations, then you can take it as SEBI Act 1992 or Companies Act 2013 or SCERA, Securities Contract Regulation Act 1956, Depository Act 1996, or the rules thereof and regulations made thereunder shall have the same meaning as assigned to them in such acts or rules or regulations or any statutory modifications or reenactment thereto as the case may be. This is what the words and expressions used in these standards shall be construed. It is given. Now, standards for minimum information to be provided to the audit committee for review and approval, including ratification. So what are minimum information provided to the audit committee? The management of listed entity shall provide the audit committee with the information as specified in para 4. Every time we are talking about para 4, what is there in para 4? The format is there in para 4. Now we will come to that. Now we are in para 3. Next we will go to para 4. While placing any proposal for review and proposal for RPT, so that information as per the format, it has to the notice of the audit committee. At the time of sending notice, audit committee notice itself, the information has to be given. While collecting and collating the information, the management of the listed entities shall take into account the following: provide comments against each information where it is sought in the format specified in para 4. See, we have to give the clear information. Management has to give a clear information. If it is not applicable, then write nil or not applicable. That's all. And also certificate has to be provided by CEO or CFO or any other KMP of the listed entity. And from every director of the listed entity who is also a promoter director, to the effect that this particular RPT, the RPT is to be entered into, because prior to audit committee, the certificate has to be given. No? So that is the reason we are mentioning to be entered into. RPT, related party transaction, to be entered into, are not prejudicial to the interest of the public shareholder. This certificate has to be given by CEO or CFO or KMP. And every director, and every director. You may get doubt, suppose promoter director, one director may not sign because there may be some dispute or maybe any issue. Then that case, it has to be minuted in the audit committee meeting. It has to bring to the notice of the audit committee, it has to be minuted accordingly. And the terms and conditions of the RPTs are not unfavorable to the listed entity. This statement has to be mentioned in the certificate. Compared to the terms and conditions, a similar transaction being entered into with an unrelated party. So these two lines has to be mentioned in the certificate. What will be there in the certificate? CEO, CFO, KMP. We are talking no promoter. Directors will sign. See, the certificate shall contain that RPT to be entered into are not prejudicial to the interest of the public shareholder. The terms and conditions of the RPT are not unfavorable to the listed entity compared to the terms and conditions had similar transaction been entered into with unrelated party. This certificate has to be provided by either CEO or CFO or KMP and every director of the listed entity who is a promoter. Only promoter director. Every director means not all other directors. However, and copy of valuation of other report of external party, if any, shall be placed before audit committee. Because of these transactions, this external independent valuer will give valuation. No? That valuation has to be placed before the audit committee. If audited financial statement of the related party as required to be submitted to audit committee, suppose the related party which we are going to transact, no, that related party financials has to be submitted. If financials are not available, then what is the solution? Then the financial details will be certified by the related party. No need to stop the transaction. So related party has to certify if audited financials are not available. Whose audited financials? The related party which we are going to enter in the transaction. This is the solution is given. Then if the related party follows a different financial year, then the fact shall be disclosed. In case payment of royalty, there are certain disclosures as per the format. Then like management fee, service fee, etc. has to be explicitly bifurcated and disclosed. Just you cannot simply this is X amount for royalty. No, you have to give all the details. Bifurcation has to be given. Even in that royalty, what is the management fee, what is the service fee? Like any headings are there, then that bifurcation has to be given. In case of payment of royalty, the criteria for selecting industry peer shall be as follows. Because if royalty is paying, because we come across many holding companies will give royalty to subsidiaries. It will be giving years together. So then that is the reason here it is clearly mentioned. We have to take comparable companies. Peer companies. So at least minimum 3 companies, 3 industry peers shall be follows. The listed entity will strive to compare the royalty payment with a minimum of 3 industry peers where feasible. The selection shall follow the following hierarchy. Preference will be given to the Indian listed industry peers, and if Indian listed companies are not available, then comparison may be made with the listed global industry peers if available. If no suitable industry, Indian listed or global industry, the companies are not available, then listed entity may refer to the peer group considered by the SEBI registered research analyst in their publicly available research reports. If the listed entity's business model differs from such research analyst peer set, it may be provided an explanation to clarify the distinction. Everything has to be minuted in the meeting of the audit committee. In cases where fewer than 3, if suppose less than 3 industry peers are available, then the listed entity will disclose to that extent. If the audit committee has any comments on the line items, as per the format specified in para 4, it shall provide them accordingly. However, comments are required only for the applicable line items. While non-applicable item, just you can write not applicable. Now we will come to the format. See, no need to worry about the format. The format, if you see A and B, it is divided into A and B. A is details of the related party and transactions with the related party. Under A, we are giving details of the related party and transactions with the related party. But what we are giving under B, I'll tell you that. I'll show you that. Details of specific transactions. What are the specific transactions? So sale of goods and purchase of goods to be treated as a separate transaction. Sale of goods and sale of service to be treated as a separate transaction. Giving of loans and giving guarantee to be treated as a separate transaction. So this is what under B, this is what we are giving. And different headings are given under A. If you see under A, see overall it is A and B. This format is divided into A and B. Under A, again, A1, A2, A3, A4 are given. Under A1, again, similarly, under B also, B1, B2, B3, like that it is given. Under A1 also, again, 1, 2, 3, 4. Under A2 also, again, 4, 5, 6. Like the serial number is given. See, under A, I already told the details of related party and details of transactions. This is what given under A. Under A1, again A1, basic details of the related party. A2, relationship with ownership related party. That details are given. And A3, financial performance of the related party for the past 3 years we are taking. Why we are taking related party performance? Because, see, you are dealing in the transaction like giving loan, giving guarantee. Then you should know they are giving advance, whether that amount will come back or not. What is the performance of related party? Why 3 years? See whether that related party is doing business with the holding company or only this year, or the business is existence for the past 3 years. The shareholder should come to know. That is why past 3 years details we are providing. Financial information under A3. A4, details of previous transactions with related party, whether this is a first transaction or earlier previous transactions. See, if the shareholder will come to know the previous transaction also, then he will come to know what exactly is happening. So those previous transactions also, again, year wise, 3 years we are taking. And then in that, if you are talking about the previous transaction, there, if any default also, that comes to know. So already defaulted, again doing a related party transaction, then all details has to be mentioned. It has to be minuted properly. It has to go to the notice of the shareholders, because at the time of notice itself, in the explanatory statement, if it is a material, then they have to give all the details. At the time of notice sending to the audit committee, yes, all the details has to be given. Amount of the proposed transaction. In A5 it is given what is the amount of the proposed transaction. So all type of transactions taken together we are talking. So this is what the details given under A5. Then B, under B, in this format what we are giving, I just told you, basic details of proposed transaction. What are the basic details we will talk first. Then additional details here, proposed transaction relating to sale, purchase, or supply of goods and any other similar business transaction. All details like taking a biddings. So minimum 3 biddings has to be taken. Three bids has to be taken. So those bids, because we know how the biddings are going on in the industry. So that is the reason they are asking full details of bidding. Audit committee has to clearly record everything, those quotations. If there are no quotations, then it has to be minuted. If it is less than 3 quotations, again it has to be minuted. And again, B3, under B3, what we are giving, proposed transactions relating to loan or intercorporate deposit or advances. I just told you, no. So those details here we are giving under heading B3, nature of indebtedness, total cost of borrowing, tenure, other details, material covenants entered, then interest rate. So all these details we are giving. And if any default earlier, everything. And we are taking last 3 years borrowings with a related party, specific. So this is what clear details we are giving under heading B3. Then we will come to B4. Proposed transactions relating to any investment made by the listed entity or subsidiary company. So any investment which you are giving or any investment made by the any subsidiary, then even when you are giving a loan, also you have to see the strength of that related party. So similarly, when you are investing, you have to see the source of funds in connection with the proposed transaction and explanation. This shall not be applicable to the banks and NBFCs. And purpose for which the fund shall be utilized by the investee, those details has to be given. Whether any financial indebtedness is incurred to make investments, specify the following. So these details: nature of indebtedness, total cost borrowing, tenure, material covenants, same, credit rating details, and expected annualized returns or returns on the past investment in the related party over the last 3 financial year, return on equity. So details of asset liability mismatch position, if any, post investment. So these are all details in B4. Then B5, if the transaction relating to any guarantee, excluding performance guarantee, or any surety, or any indemnity or comfort letter by whatever the name called made given by the listed entity, then or its subsidiary, then you have to give the following details, full details, because authorities and shareholders are should aware of this. So these are the details when at the time of giving guarantee, surety, indemnity, comfort letter. Details like rationale for giving guarantee, surety, indemnity, or comfort letter, material covenants, proposed transaction, including commission, if any, received, like the same. The last 3 years, earlier past transaction also we have to mention. Once we give the past 3 years, then shareholders will come to know. Then, if the transaction relating to borrowing by the listed entity or subsidiary, then similarly, what are the material covenants proposed transaction? Like same, secured, if it is purpose for which the funds will be utilized, debt equity ratio, before transaction, after transaction, then all these details. Then under B7, what transaction? This is the transaction related to sale, lease, or disposal of any asset of subsidiary or unit or division or undertaking of the listed entity, or disposal of shares of subsidiary associate. The following details are required. Again, the bids, minimum 3 bids has to be obtained. If it is not that, then it has to be minuted. The reasons has to be minuted in the audit committee. Then additional cost, if it is incurred where the bids are not invited, then the reason has to be mentioned. So all these details, 3 years again, all transactions of 3 years, financial track record of the subsidiary or undertaking that is being sold. So if any misuse, then here it will be very clear. Shareholders will come to know. Then expected financial impact on the consolidated turnover, net worth, or net profit of the listed entity or its subsidiary due to sale of the subsidiary undertaking. Expected impact, turnover, net worth, and net profits details has to be given. If the transaction relating to payment of royalty, then this is very important, because then I just told you, royalty continuously giving years together, decades together. Then so all the details now here we have to enter. Past 3 years, royalty amount, purpose for which royalty was paid to the related party during the last 3 years, whether now that is useful or not. So those details will come. 3 years, transfer of technology, brand, what for the past 3 years, what is happening. So this is what clear details are given. This is all about the royalty. And then royalty, R&D, even when this listed company is paying royalty, then also comparison, peer comparison for minimum three companies. So that also given. So this is what the format has to be provided. So no need to worry. By seeing the format, it maybe looks big, but it is clearly divided into A and B. As per applicability only we are mentioning. And even transactions also we have to see divided into 3. So respective transactions also we'll see. Even disclosures also again divided into 2. That is also very clear. Even item, whether it is a balance sheet item, P&L item, that also have to be very clear. And if it is audit committee approval, all transactions are under audit committee approval. And shareholder, if it is a material, shareholder. So this is basically the disclosure. You have to see these standards are basically disclosure. Now, finally, I'll come to fifth point, fifth para. Here it talks about the standards. These standards here, I already told the explanatory statement contained in the notice sent to the shareholders for seeking their approval for an RPT shall provide all the details. This is what all the details. If it is going for members' approval, it explanatory statement it will give full details. If the notice is sent to the audit committee, then audit committee shall aware. The notice being sent to the shareholders for seeking approval of for any material RPT shall in addition to the requirement of Companies Act 2013. As usual, as per the Companies Act 2013, that has to be given. These are all addition. Part of addition, we are giving, including the following information, part of the explanatory statement, information as placed before the audit committee in the format as specified in para 4, which I explained. To extent applicable only we are giving. Audit committee can approve, see, redaction of commercial secret. Suppose there are any commercial secret which you don't want to disclose in the notice to the members, then that has to be minuted in the audit committee. Commercial secrets, yes, you can reduce that information. Justification to why the proposed transaction is in the interest of listed entity. Justification has to be given. Explanatory statement. Statement of asset. See, the statement of assessment by the audit committee. See, so much huge responsibility lies on audit committee. Audit committee has to assess that the relevant disclosures for decision making were placed before them, and they have determined that the promoters will not benefit from the RPT at the expense of the public shareholders. Then disclose the fact that the audit committee had revived the certificate provided by the CEO or CFO or any other KMP, as well as the certificate provided by the promoter directors of the listed entity as required under para 3 we explained. That certificate has to be reviewed by the audit committee. Copy of the valuation report and other reports of external party, if any, considered by the audit committee while approving the RPT. And in case of sale, purchase, or supply of goods or services, or the sale, lease, disposal of the assets of the subsidiary unit, division, or undertaking of the listed entity, if the audit committee has reviewed the terms and conditions of the bids from unrelated parties, then such fact shall be stated. So, see the responsibility of the audit committee. In case bids have not been invited, then the fact shall be disclosed along with the justification thereof. And in case comparable bids are not available, then state the, again, basis for recommending that the terms of the RPT are beneficial to the shareholders. See, these things has to be disclosed. Audit committee has to review. And then comments of the board, audit committee of the listed entity, if any, and any other information that may be relevant. These things has to be mentioned in the notice, in the explanatory statement at the time of sending notice. Yes, we have discussed on the standards RPT. This is applicable from 1st April 2025. It seems to be big, but if you see bifurcate, then it is very easy. Hope you are clear. Thank you. Thank you very much.